There is a certain kind of athlete who understands something that most competitors take years to learn, if they ever learn it at all. That the line between villain and icon is razor thin, and the ones bold enough to walk it become unforgettable. Angel Reese has never been afraid of that line. In fact, she has spent the better part of 3 years sprinting toward it, arms wide open, daring the world to look away, and the world, predictably, cannot. The 24-year-old forward for the Atlanta Dream is one of the most polarizing, most talked about, and most compelling figures in women's basketball today. She is a two-time WNBA All-Star, a record-setting rebounder, the most followed player in the league on social media, and, depending on who you ask, either the greatest entertainer in the WNBA or the sport's most divisive personality. What is not in dispute is that Angel Reese has made a deliberate, calculated, and remarkably effective choice. She will play the villain, and she will play it better than anyone in the game. And right now, in the early days of the 2026 WNBA season, that choice has never looked more alive. On May 12, 2026, the Atlanta Dream traveled to the College Park Center in Arlington, Texas, for a road game against the Dallas Wings. It was only Atlanta's second game of the new season, and it was Angel Reese's second game in a Dream uniform, following a blockbuster off-season trade from the Chicago Sky. But if anyone expected her to ease in to her new role quietly, to let the transition period speak for itself, they clearly had not been paying attention. Early in the game, Reese grabbed an offensive rebound, a play so routine for her it barely registers as remarkable, and bullied her way through 3 Dallas defenders to score at the rim. What came next is what people will be talking about for weeks. She immediately flexed, hit the too small gesture with cool, practiced confidence, and then, with the Dallas crowd booing her loudly, looked directly at the stands and gestured for them to get even louder. She was not deflecting the hostility. She was feeding on it. She was asking for more. She never stopped. Throughout the 77-72 Atlanta victory, Reese continued her too small celebrations after nearly every offensive rebound, taunting the Wings and their fans with the kind of theatrical relish that belongs equally in a basketball arena and a WWE ring. She finished the night with 12 points, 16 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and a block, and grabbed 8 offensive rebounds alone, one more than the entire Dallas Wings team. Combined, she had outmuscled a front court that included the #1 overall draft pick and a seasoned veteran. And she made sure everyone in that building knew it. This was not an accident. This was not a player losing herself in the heat of the moment. This was Angel Reese being exactly who she has always said she would be. From a college icon to professional lightning rod. To understand where Reese is now, you have to understand where this story truly begins. And it begins on the night of April 2nd, 2023, in the final minute of the NCAA Women's Basketball Championship game in Dallas. LSU was routing Iowa 102-85, and as the clock wound down, Reese turned to Iowa's star player, Caitlin Clark, and performed John Cena's iconic "You Can't See Me" gesture, then pointed to her ring finger. It was a taunt as clear as a trumpet blast. The stadium erupted. Social media detonated. That game became the most watched women's college basketball game in history at the time, drawing nearly 10 million viewers. LSU won its first national championship. Angel Reese was named the most outstanding player. And overnight, she became simultaneously the hero of one half of the sports world and the villain of the other. The backlash was severe and, by Reese's own account, deeply personal. She revealed in the days and weeks that followed that she received death threats. Many observers, including prominent journalists and former athletes, argued publicly that the scrutiny directed at Reese was disproportionate and that a double standard was at work. That Caitlin Clark had made similar gestures throughout that very tournament without attracting the same level of condemnation. The racial dimension of the discourse was impossible to ignore, and Reese herself navigated it with a careful, measured public presence that belied the emotional toll it was taking. But what she did not do was back down. She embraced the nickname Bayou Barbie, filed to trademark it, and leaned into the persona with the confidence of someone who had decided that the only thing worse than being talked about negatively was not being talked about at all. The WNBA chapter begins, and the drama follows. When Reese was selected by the Chicago Sky with the 7th overall pick in the 2024 WNBA draft, the Clark-Reese rivalry that had defined college basketball transitioned directly into the professional league. Their paths crossed repeatedly, and every encounter generated the kind of media attention the WNBA had rarely experienced. The numbers backed up the interest. Television ratings climbed, arena attendance swelled, and merchandise moved at unprecedented levels. Reese's on-court performance in her rookie season was legitimately extraordinary. She set the WNBA single-season record in rebounds, becoming the only player in league history to average at least 12 rebounds per game in a season. And then she did it again in her sophomore year. In 64 career appearances with Chicago, she averaged 14.1 points, 12.9 rebounds, and 2.7 assists. She collected a league-high tying 23 double-doubles in 2025, despite playing in only 30 games due to injury. By May 2025, she had surpassed Tina Charles as the fastest player in WNBA history to record 500 points and 500 rebounds, doing it in just 38 games. The awards, the all-star selections, the record books, all of it accumulated. And yet, the drama accumulated right alongside it. During her time with the Sky, Reese was not just fighting opponents on the court. She was fighting perception. Critics questioned whether her statistics were a product of playing for a losing team. Chicago finished 13-27 and 10-34 in her 2 seasons there, and whether her rebounding numbers, impressive as they were, reflected efficient play or a high volume of missed shots from teammates. The internet coined the term "me-bounds," a sardonic nickname tying her rebounding dominance to her team's offensive struggles. Reese's response was vintage Angel Reese. She filed to trademark the word. She told viewers that she would turn the "me-bounds" term into a 6-figure brand, as one report noted. It was audacious, funny, and entirely on brand. Whether you found it brilliant or infuriating depended entirely on whether you were rooting for her. The tension with Chicago's management eventually boiled over. Reese publicly told the Chicago Tribune that the team needed to get great players, or she might consider leaving. The Sky responded by suspending her for the first half of a game, a decision so poorly received that fans showed up with free angel signs. The franchise had voted the worst run in the WNBA by many analysts, and this episode did nothing to change that reputation. ATL Barbie and a fresh start with purpose. On April 6, 2026, the Chicago Sky traded Angel Reese to the Atlanta Dream in exchange for first-round picks in 2027 and 2028, plus additional considerations. For Reese, it was more than a trade. It was a release. It was a chance to compete for something meaningful alongside a team built to win rather than to rebuild. Atlanta had finished the 2025 season at 30-14 and was already considered a legitimate championship contender before Reese arrived. Her Dream debut on May 9, 2026 against the Minnesota Lynx set the tone immediately. She recorded 11 points and 14 rebounds, and with 12 seconds left in a tie game, made a game-saving block in the final second to seal a 91-90 Atlanta victory. The moment was cinematic. It was the kind of introduction that legends are built from. And when Reese's jersey sold out within hours of the trade being announced, it confirmed what had been obvious for some time. This is a player who moves the needle. and then some. By her second game, the villain act was back in full force. The Dallas performance was not a new Angel Reese. It was the truest version of the one that has always existed, finally playing for a team that lets her flourish. In the process, she also made history. Reese became the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 50 career double-doubles, achieving the milestone in her dream debut. The debate that won't die and just shout near. The ongoing discourse surrounding Angel Reese reveals something far larger than basketball. Renowned sports journalist Jamila Hill put it plainly when she noted that Angel Reese is not the villain in Caitlin Clark's story, no more than Caitlin Clark is the savior in hers, adding that the double standard applied to competitive behavior between male and female athletes remains a persistent, frustrating reality. If you have no problem when male athletes compete hard against one another, Hill argued, do us all a favor and apply that same energy. The point cuts deep. Sports history is filled with athletes celebrated for their edge, their trash talk, their uncompromising will to dominate and intimidate. Michael Jordan, Kevin Garnett, Kobe Bryant, Larry Bird. These men were lionized for the very behaviors that generate controversy when a young black woman in the WNBA does them. The cultural discomfort with Angel Reese's persona is not purely about her personality. It is a mirror held up to unresolved tensions about race, gender, and who is allowed to be unapologetically themselves in professional sports. Hill also highlighted Reese's frustration with the recognition gap in women's basketball. Those comments from Angel Reese about wanting some credit for helping to grow the game came from a very real place for black women, she said, pointing out that Clark, Paige Buchers, and Kelsey Plum have all acknowledged the degree to which being white gives them a different experience of the spotlight. Reese's intensity, her theatrics, and yes, her willingness to be the villain have all contributed substantially to the WNBA's surge in popularity. And her desire to have that acknowledged is not ego. It is accuracy. Who she actually is, off the court. Here is the part that the narrative of villain often obscures. The people who actually know Angel Reese tell a very different story. After the Dallas game, dream teammate Alicia Gray, who led the team with 26 points that night, spoke about Reese in terms that could not be more disconnected from the persona she projects in competition. She's just such a positive person, Gray said. No matter what state we are in the game, she always brings us together and lets us know we got it. And she's such a hard worker, and she's such a good person as well. Once you get to know her and really connect with her, she's an amazing person, really lovely person, a joy to be around. I have the time of my life hanging out with Angel. This is the paradox at the center of the Angel Reese story, and it is what makes her so genuinely compelling as a figure. The competitive persona, the taunting, the flexing, the crowd work, the I'll take the villain role declarations is real. It is not manufactured for the camera, but it coexists with a person her teammates describe as warm, positive, and unifying. She is both of these things at once. The best athletes usually are. She has also demonstrated a level of business savvy and self-awareness that speaks to something well beyond sports. The trademark filings, the social media empire. She is the most followed player in WNBA history with over 4.6 million Instagram followers, the Victoria's Secret fashion show appearance, the Vogue cover. These are not the moves of someone who stumbled into celebrity. Reese has architected her public identity with intention and precision. What comes next? The 2026 WNBA season is still in its infancy, and the Atlanta Dream are 2-0 with Angel Reese doing exactly what she was brought there to do. Rebounding at an elite level, providing toughness in the paint, and bringing an energy to the team that raises every performance around her. With Alicia Gray, Jordan Canada, and Ryan Howard surrounding her, this roster has the pieces to make a genuine championship run. For Reese, personally, this season represents something more than statistics. It represents vindication. After 2 years on a franchise that squandered her talent and ultimately undermined her publicly, she is now in an environment that values what she brings. The chip on her shoulder is enormous, and if the Dallas performance is any indication, she is going to carry that chip into every single arena she walks into this year, and she is going to love every second of it. Opposing fans will boo, commentators will debate, social media will churn, the think pieces will continue, and Angel Reese will flex, hit the too small gesture, look into the crowd, and ask for more. She has been telling us who she is from the very beginning. The only question that ever mattered was whether we were paying attention. We are.